Well, hello, my fabulous friends. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to do today. I'm going to go back into my tarot vault, and I'm going to tell you secrets out of school about some of the readings that I've done in total confidence. And these were more than 10 years ago. And just so you know, I'm not going to tattle on your reading. Just stories that really stuck in my mind, why people come for readings. And this was way back in the day, early 2000s, probably 20 years ago. I don't even know if this lady is still with us. She was already in her 60s when she came to me. And she was just wanted to know if her life was going to get better. So this is part one. Now, I'm just trying to remember sort of what the cards look like. And I think I've explained before, I used the Tatiana fortune cards quite a bit back then. They're just Lenormand, fancy Lenormand. And you can see how much I use them. So it was something very similar to this. I'm not sure if this was the exact layout because I didn't take pictures back then. So what happened was that she came to me, she was in her 60s, and her life just wasn't going the way it was. She wanted it to. She was just very depressed, and I saw that. There was very similar cards here with the cross over the clouds, the crosses that you bear. Clouds are mental. And then just all of this, and also with the birds here. The birds it's just you telling yourself over and over and over, you're depressed, you're depressed, you're depressed. And I said, okay, I agree. I can see you're depressed here. But it may just, it's because you talk about it so much here with the birds. You know, you're talking with your friends. I'm so depressed. My life is so terrible, over and over and over. I said, well, there's a man in your life that's actually, and then I said, is your depression a lot about the man in your life? And she said, yes, she's married and her love life has gone boring. And I can see that. And I was kind of worried here with the whip. When you see the whip in clouds with a person, you're like, oh, and is, how do you breach it? Is there a little bit of mental abuse there? Does he yell at you a lot? Is he demanding? And she's like, no, he's just really, he doesn't like to do anything, actually, she said. And I said, well, there's something here. Is he going to find out some information? Anyways, I said, you have to be warned. There's something coming that is opportunist. And I'm saying it's opportunist because it's the bird and the snake. And there's something coming for your husband here, some unknown, and it's going to create a lot of problems, a lot of big problems, a lot of big, big problems, especially with this scythe here. And the mountain is an obstacle, and here's losses, and you've got a very important decision to be made. But the cards really aren't acknowledging your lack of enthusiasm for living. And if you are depressed, I suggest that you see a psychologist or a doctor or something, which I would have said anyways. But the most important thing is to stop talking about it, especially with your friends, especially on social media. Don't go, well, I guess we didn't have social media back then, so I would have said, yeah, talking with your friends. Don't go on about how terrible your life is and how heavy it feels and how you have no energy and how you're disinterested in your husband after all these years. I said, but there's big, big trouble coming and there's some kind of obstacle. And it almost feels like this obstacle is going to appear quite quickly. And then you're going to have a choice to make. And you're going to, I see there's a lot of loss here. So I'm not seeing that your husband's passing away. I mean, the coffin isn't here. I don't see any health. I just see something is coming. Something is coming. Oh, all right. I said, yeah, there's something that's coming here with the male part. Oh, all right. So I said, please, be aware. I said, I don't think it's health. I don't see anything health here. I don't see any death. There's just some kind of big obstacle. Could be a big person. So please be careful with, when you're out and about. I was thinking in my mind, this might be like a robbery or something, because of the whip and the snake and the big problems, like, that wasn't in the house. I'm just like, just please, there's some kind of big obstacle coming. It's going to show up very quickly, and you're going to have to make a decision. And I didn't want to scare her, so I didn't say, could maybe your house is robbed, so you then decide to move, or I didn't say anything, but there's losses involved. There's losses involved. I said, it's not a death. It's not an illness. Something is coming. It's not money. The fish aren't here. Something is coming. Something big is coming for her. And she didn't show up, so I just assumed it was the man. All right, she said. I said, please go see somebody about your depression. And most part is to stop talking about it. Find something positive to talk about. When you go for coffee with your girlfriends. Oh, and that was another thing, the cross. She was really happy to see the cross because apparently she's, quite religious and goes to church. And I said, okay, that's good. Well, maybe talk to your pastor about it. But you need to talk to somebody to help you dispel these clouds. And maybe it was possibly a man, because a male is there. So you might want to talk to a man. Sometimes the snake can be medical, because you think of the Claudius. I said, just stop talking, because there's also sometimes a snake can be a female with dark hair. I said, a female with dark hair might be like egging you on. They love to hear your problems. I said, but if you want to feel better, that's what you need to do. And all right, she said, and off she goes. A couple of months later, she comes back for reading, and she's, oh, thank you. I did talk to my pastor, and he recommended a great therapist, and I've been really talking out my problems, and you told me I had a decision to make, and I think I've made it. And so I'm getting the general gist of what the cards were at that time. It was really bizarre because they kind of flipped around. She really had bad cards. I remember that. And I know the fish was there. I know the heart was there. Yeah, she was there. And I think the coffin. Again, the cards were really bad. Something like that. But it was the garden came up this time. And so she came, and, I kind of remembered what her last reading was like. And I said, oh, and now you have a decision to make. I said, I see the clouds have dissipated. Oh, yes. The clouds have dissipated. I've prayed. And I remember the cross was next to the coffin. Sometimes the cross next to the coffin can be somebody on the other side that's helping you out. I've prayed, and I can't believe my luck. She said, I want to ask the cards this time. She says, well, a new man has come into my life. I prayed to God to release this. And I prayed to Jesus, and he sent me this amazing man. And she whispers at me, and that's why I put the whip here. We've had sex. It was amazing. I was like, what? It was the best sex I've had in, I can't remember, years. My husband's been so disinterested, and I've prayed for passion and romance, and this man has come into my life. I said, oh, where did you meet him? Well, my friends told me about going online, and you can just, go to these forums, and so I just started chatting. We just are emailing. You have to remember, this was early 2000s, so there's no social media or anything, but there was forums back there. The forums were the big things back in the early 2000s, where you'd go to a forum for weight loss or Christians, or there was actually a lot of forums. They were called bulletin boards back then. I'm really going back in the day. There was like lots of bulletin boards. Actually, there was a Course in Miracles bulletin board. There was churches had bulletin boards, and then you just go on there and these forums. Somebody'd ask a question, you got to answer it. Blah blah blah. So that's where he met him, and she said, "So I want to ask the cards, should I trust him?" And I just remember these cards around here. I'm like, no. And then it came back to me that the reason that obstacle, something was going to happen, wasn't her husband. It was this fellow here was coming into her life. And here he is. And he's a fox. And it's interesting because the snake, because she has dark hair. And here's the money card. He pretends to love her because he wants to start a gym. Well, how old is this fellow? Oh, he's like in his 40s. It's amazing. I'm like, whoa. I just really want to warn you, there's a loss of money, Fisher money. There's an opportunist who's using love, who's going to try and get you for money, and he's coming for you. Look at the cards, and the cards are here. This is actually going to end a lot of your love. I said, no, please don't. This isn't the decision that you have to be made. You better be careful, because this could be made public with the garden here. Especially at your church. I said, well, how did he find you? Like, what forum? Well, yeah, like on our church bulletin board, and I've never noticed him at church before, but now, I notice he's there, and I'm like, oh, please be careful. There's losses here for you, please don't invest in his gym. And now it makes sense why the whip was here, because the whip can be exercise, but it also can be great sex when it's next to, your lover. It could be like really wild, like we're very passionate sex. So that made sense. He was a gym owner, and he's an opportunist. These opportunists, they're sly. He probably was at that church, but she just never noticed him. He's, more than 20 years younger than her. And so that just wasn't her jam. When she went to church, she hung out with her church ladies and her own age group and whatnot. And I prayed that that Jesus would get me out of my doldrums. And I haven't had any depression at all since I met him. And I thought, yeah, no kidding. This excitement, this rush, and I was just like, this person. I said, this snake is you, not that you're a snake. I didn't, but you had dark hair. I said, this person's going to end up as a cross to bear, because look at it, comes down. It's going to be a cross to bear, this person. And I said, and this is this could become public. This affair could become public. I said, I'm really imploring you. I know you're happy with this person, but please stop, because something is going to happen in public. And then she kind of was mad at me, and because that's not what she wanted to hear, right? She was, oh, okay, and off she goes. And I thought it was really kind of, and not that I judge people who are Christians, but a lot of Christians don't believe in card reading and fortune telling and whatnot, and but some do. I've got a lot of Christian followers. I'm not judging or anything. I just thought, interesting. So off she goes. And sure enough, couple of months later, she comes back. And this was not good at all. As you can tell how this story is going. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember how the general gist of this reading went. I think that was it. And the underlying was the mice again. Right? Because back then I didn't take pictures, but I just really remembered her reading the storyline. So it was something like this again, because I just remember it was the cross and the man in the middle. And normally I would read that. I remember thinking normally I would read that as a death, as a public funeral, right? A public funeral of somebody. So cards came out, and I just remember this public ending and with loss. So she comes back, and she's looking worse for wear. And I said, oh, and how's it going? And well, Mr. Jim absolutely did use her. And she lost her husband, not to death. He publicly, she's embarrassed now at church. Her husband has left her. And so is Mr. Jim. She's now lost the respect of her church. She is now back in depression. It came back. The messenger here with the whip and the clouds, it scattered all over the church that she had an affair with this man. This man ended up, he ended up almost blackmailing her and saying, if you don't give me the money to start my gym, I'm going to tell everybody. And he did not realize, as a lot of women that age, no judgment here, her husband held the purse string. She had no money of her own. She got like an allowance. She had no access to the money. And he was actually after her to get a line of credit on their house. And the story goes, yeah, it was very convoluted. Get a line of credit on your house. But you don't have to tell him because you're an owner as well. And lucky for her, she mentioned it to a friend. Here's the wise owl here. And her friend told her, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And so he ended up, telling the husband about the affair. And look at the losses she had. She lost her husband. She lost this person who was this gym guy who was giving her fantastic sex. She lost her friends publicly because her husband, when her husband divorced her, publicly told everybody why he was divorcing her. Here's the sudden endings card. She had to move out of her house. Oh yeah, it was her depression came back. And that's probably one of the first scams on the internet. Now they just email you, like they just find you on dating sites or whatever. And Mr. Jim went on to find somebody else who opened the gym, and then the gym went absolutely bankrupt. So it's so interesting to me how the cards will go, but I just remember her saying that, he was pressuring her, and these guys, they don't realize, these women, you're in your 60s, and you have to remember this was 20 years ago. So like I said, I don't know if she's still around. She'd be deep into her 80s by now, maybe 86, 87. And if she's watching this, I highly doubt she is. This was an interesting story that I feel that people should watch. So because I got a lot of my viewers now are into their 60s. And I thought this was a good warning. So if they say if you can't be a good example, at least be a good warning. And this lady lost everything for over a scammer. And I didn't hear from her after that. I think I actually have she didn't contact me ever again after that. So, and back in those days, I sat at a little market, a little Sunday market, and it was $25 to rent the table. And that's where I did most of my readings. I never had anybody come to my house. And the only time I went to somebody else's house is if it was a party and there was lots of other people around. I did lots of parties back in the day. And she never came back to that little market. I never saw her there. I think she was just embarrassed. I wouldn't be surprised if she left town because when the divorce happened, the husband sold the house, so she had to move. She probably had to leave town. And if I remember correctly, I know she said something about maybe moving in with her daughter, and that was in another town. And I had that little table until 2019, until COVID hit. Yeah, I never saw her. Never saw her again. So, which is sad. So anyways, if you can't be a good example, at least be a good warning. So watch out for scammers, ladies. Well, let me know what you thought of this little recall. Again, the cards weren't exact. I just remember the progression of the story. She comes and I thought it was fascinating that she had this obstacle or whatever. Well, it wasn't her husband. It was this man was going to be an obstacle in her life and create a lot of problems in her life. But that's what loneliness and depression can do for a person. You have kind of blinders on. So that's another warning too. Don't make any important decisions if you're mentally struggling with something or emotionally struggling with something, because it could end up losing everything. Things that you didn't even see coming. All right. Well, let me know. Do you want to see more of these stories? Did you find this interesting? Yeah, let me know down in the comments below because I've got tons of stories, that's for sure. Take good care. See you online. Bye for now.